Hey guys, Frightener22 here, and I'm welcoming you back to the first At the Movies segment of the summer for 2010. Now, I know I've been really lacking on this segment on the channel, and I really apologize because before the summer hit, I really had said that the At the Movies segment was probably going to be a pretty heavy segment that was going to be put into a lot of effect throughout the summer, but I really have just been slacking in seeing movies this summer. Prior to seeing the movie that I'm about to review, I've only really seen two movies, that being Toy Story 3 and Predators. And you guys must be wondering, well, where the hell are the reviews for those two movies? Well, it's just sheer laziness on my behalf. I mean, I would just come home from the movies and never got around to it. But I mean, especially in regards to Toy Story 3, I don't think you needed Frightener22 to tell you how good it was, because everybody and their mother is saying how great that movie was. It really was a splendid movie and an amazing ending to the Toy Story trilogy, and Predators kicked ass. So I highly suggest that all you guys check out those two movies while they're still in cinemas. But today, the movie that I'm going to be reviewing is an interesting choice, because if you hark back to my July 12th DVD update, I mentioned that you guys probably shouldn't expect an At the Movies review of this, but after, leaving the theater, I figured, what the hey, I think this would be an interesting thing for Frightener22, of all people, to review. So without further ado, we're gonna go, you guys are gonna be, subjected to my review of the 2010 reimaging of The Karate Kid. Now, like I said, if you guys hark back to my July 12th DVD update, the main drive as to why I saw this reimagining of one of my favorite films of all time is really because I bought the Blu-ray of the original 1984 classic, and in that was a code for eMovie Cash up to $10 to see The Karate Kid. So me, of all people, I'm never anybody to pass up a free movie, even if it's something that I was never incredibly interested in. So, taking that all into consideration, if it's free, I may as well subject myself to it and, see it for myself in hopes that I could be pleasantly surprised by it. So, I just got out of seeing the film, and I'm going to give you guys just a brief, plot line of what goes on in this reimagining. In this movie, it pretty much takes place with a mother and son being shipped off to China because the work arrangements cause the mother to transfer over to China. So upon getting there, there's a bunch of, badass bullies that are picking on the kid, Dre, played by Jaden Smith, yes, the son of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. So, they pick on him, and then it isn't until the maintenance man, Mr. Han, played by Jackie Chan from his apartment complex, intervene, and before you know it, a final, confrontation is due at a karate tournament where the boys that are harassing Dre face off against each other. That's basically, the bare-bones plot line of it. And I mean, really, it does hark back to the original Karate Kid formula, but, obviously the main, there's a lot of big differences on this. The first two being the characters' names are completely different. I mean, it's not Daniel anymore, it's Dre, and it's not Mr. Miyagi, it's Mr. Han. And of course, one of the more obvious things, that being that, the main character's role isn't suited for, a teenager anymore. He's a little bit younger. Dre is actually 12 years old, and he's black. He's not a white Italian kid living in California, so those are big differences, as well as, the obvious location change. It's not Daniel moving from Newark, New Jersey to Reseda. It's, a kid from Detroit moving over to China. So there's just little things that they tweaked and whatnot. And, my main gripe with this was that even if you're reimagining or just, remaking this movie entirely, it just begs the question, why did you need to do it? Because the main thing, before this movie had released and they actually settled on the definitive title to it, it was originally going to be called The Kung Fu Kid. And that would have been fucking brilliant, because after you see this movie, that's exactly what Mr. Han is teaching Dre in this. Kung Fu. There is no indication of karate. They go well out of their way to explain that he is learning Kung Fu. And like I had mentioned before, they settled on the title, it was for many months being hinted that it was going to be called The Kung Fu Kid. And I was completely fine with that. Different characters, totally different, location change, completely different title. Call it what you will, but they really weren't trying to remake The Karate Kid. It was just a blatant ripoff, if anything else. But, of course, they did end up going with the Karate Kid title just to pretty much, draw in people that grew up with the Karate Kid. So that was just a big thing that irks me, from the door, that they had the nerve to call call it The Karate Kid, because this is not at all, you know, a true remaking of The Karate Kid. They just wanted to play off the coattails of the success of the original film. Now, you know, like I said, the original Karate Kid is one of my favorite films of all time, so walking into this, my expectations were pretty low, and after seeing the film, I really walked out, you know, feeling like this is a pretty forgettable movie. I mean, the runtime on it is a little lengthy for the demographic that they were probably trying to aim for, which is probably kids that were Dre's age, such as, you know, anywhere from the 9 to 12 age range, and it's just, you know, it's just really not appealing. I mean, you know, the romance between Dre and a young Chinese girl that he meets there is just, it's just not interesting. I mean, they're 12 years old. Like, there's nothing that's, you know, very dramatic about that. At least in the original, when Daniel and Allie are getting together, I mean, that's something that you can really connect with being a teenager. You know, everybody has gone through those, you know, those feelings at one time or another in their life. But when you're seeing two kids that are no more than, you know, 13 years of age, it's really uninteresting. I mean, you're frankly bored watching it. It's just not, you know, something that, you know, draws you into, you know, the story making. That said, the one thing that I have to say that I actually did enjoy was the score in this film. The score was actually, did a unique twist, but it definitely was reminiscent of the score from the original film, which I really like, so I definitely have to compliment the score in this film. In addition, the cinematography and the way that they shot China was really beautiful, so I did really enjoy the cinematography and everything, and the way that they just, you know, shot China in general. It's a very beautiful country, and just, you know, all the ways that they chose to photograph it looks really nicely and plays really, really well in the film. But, I mean, the main defeat of this film is just, you know, I think it just has to do with the characters in this, and I mean the actors that play them. I mean, Jaden Smith is just, he's just frankly an annoying kid in it. I mean, it's just, I didn't have an emotional connection to him the way that I had with Daniel. Furthermore, his mom, played by Therese P. Henson, who I absolutely love, not even to mention she was nominated for an Oscar for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I absolutely adored her in, but in this, she's just such an annoying mother figure. Granted, Daniel's mom could have been seen as a nagging and embarrassing mom at times, but she certainly was more likable than this bitch. So I really didn't like her appearance in this film. And of course, moving on to probably the most important character, that being Jackie Chan playing Mr. Han, which is obviously the Miyagi character in this. You know, I mean, Jackie Chan claims that he had never seen the original Karate Kid before embarking on filming this movie, and you have to wonder how the hell does that happen? How have you never seen the Karate Kid? But I mean, what can you say? His performance was just forgettable, just like everybody else in this film. I mean, there's just really nothing appealing in this. I mean, it's funny because the runtime on this was 140 minutes, and at times you certainly feel the runtime on your back. But I mean, you know, the original was, I think, roughly 135 minutes, but the original kept things going. And it was certainly way, way more appealing than this 140-minute piece of shit. So, I mean, another one thing that I could compliment is that if they couldn't, you know, make likable, you know, enjoyable characters in a story that was, you know, kind of driving you enough, at least the fight scenes were somewhat fun. I mean, the scene where the gang, you know, corners Dre, and it's the first time that Mr. Han comes out to defend Dre. That scene is actually really impressive, and the martial arts that were implemented in this film are actually very well done and very well choreographed. So I will give credit where credit is due, and that's probably the best thing that this film has going for it. But overall, I mean, in years to come, this is just a very, very forgettable film. I mean, granted, this movie made a buttload of money, and I'm sure they're already, you know, debating, you know, the idea of sequelizing this piece of shit, and I'm sure it'll happen, but overall, I think, you know, people more or less thought that it was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything incredible, but I have to say, I mean, walking into it, my expectations were very low, and you know, I wasn't expecting anything really great, and that's exactly what I got. But if there is anything that I could get out of this, like I had mentioned, I did get a free $10 coupon for it, but the sound during this movie was fucking awful. It sounded like the speakers in the movie had absolutely blown. So, of course, at the conclusion of the movie, I walk out and complain about getting a refund, and sure enough, they gave me a readmit pass, not knowing that I used a gift certificate. So I certainly will be seeing Inception sometime this weekend or next week. So be sure to look out for my At the Movies review of Inception coming soon. As always, guys, thanks again for tuning in to my At the Movies reviews, and I'll see you sometime again this summer. Take care.